Yo, what's going on everyone? Today I wanted to talk to you guys a bit about controller versus keyboard in Multiversus and how to generally optimize your controls. I play with keyboard, so that's what I'm mostly going to be demonstrating with here. But first, what I want to bring attention to are these two binds, neutral attack and neutral special. These are the two most crucial binds in my opinion. I would highly recommend finding a comfortable key or button on your controller, not too far out of the way that you can press often. Alright, I'm going to pop on my keyboard overlay and show you guys what this looks like in game. So as we know, characters have neutral attacks. Normally what you need to do is release all directions like this and then press your light attack or heavy attack, and then you'll do the neutral version. These binds will let you do neutral attacks and neutral specials without having to release your directional keys. So you can do full momentum nairs, dash into end lights very easily. It enables you to pivot these moves as well. And the same can be applied for the neutral special. How often you'll utilize these keybinds in actual gameplay is heavily dependent on what character you play. Let's use Bugs Bunny as an example. He uses nair law in his combos, and maintaining the full momentum while you nair can be the difference between a kill and not a kill. For example, in this combo, I'm able to drag Garnet fully off stage because I don't have to lose any momentum to stop and nair. Another great thing about these binds is it makes any neutral special that you have to aim significantly easier. For example, with Wonder Woman lasso, you can pre-aim where you want the lasso to go by holding, you can hold down lasso and you just press the bind and it'll go down. Let's turn on instant cooldowns really quick. You can hold up, hold down, you can hold to the side, pivot it down, pivot it up. It's just all around very useful. Back into the settings here, something I want to make quick note of. Neutral evade is something you can bind that's neutral dodge or spot dodge. I think it has its uses, but personally I don't have it bound. Unlike neutral attack and neutral special, you don't really pivot or steer or have any special interaction by spot dodging. So just releasing all directional keys to spot dodge I'm perfectly fine with. A little bit further down in the settings, there's a few things that I'd recommend that you change or at least consider changing. First thing is the input buffer max frames right here. Recommended is 30 frames of input buffer. If you've played Brawlhalla before, I come from Brawlhalla, the input buffer is 6 in Brawlhalla. So you can kind of see why a 5 times jump might be a bit large. So I play a lot of Arya, and this is how I first noticed that this was much different than Brawlhalla. A problem I used to have before I changed the setting is when I would dash to my dagger on Arya, I would always do the spin attack. Since I double press a lot of my buttons, my second press would always register as the spin attack because of how quickly you dash. So this is what that looks like. As you can see, I double pressed it, and even though my second press was almost instantaneously after the first one, it still registered because of how big the input buffer is. So there's two different ways that you can combat this problem. One, you could just lower the input buffer. That's what I personally opt to do. Easy transition for me, Brawlhalla 6, change this to 6, that's what I prefer. I'm gonna change it now so I don't forget. Now the other thing that you can do is you can toggle this on, the input buffer hold, which reads buffered inputs will only take effect if the input is still held when the action is allowed. This is kind of a clunky feature to me, I don't personally prefer it, but basically what it'll do, I'll just also on my keyboard overlay again. So I'm back on a 30 frame input buffer, I've got the buffer hold on, and this is the exact same thing. Throw my dagger in, double press, nothing happens. Now, what this does allow you to do is it lets you press very early and hold it down. And you can see, as long as I'm holding down L, which is my special, I can press it very early and it'll still, go through because the input buffer is so high. Personally, I don't prefer this because I don't really like holding buttons, I just press them lightly. But I'd recommend messing around with this if you don't really like how your inputs feel like they're registering currently. So the last thing I want to make a quick note of in the settings is I would recommend turning this off, attack picks up items. As I've said, I come from Brawlhalla. Brawlhalla has weapons which you have to pick up off the ground. And I used to use a setting like this in Brawlhalla, and it caused a lot of problems in tense scenarios where I would want to do an attack, but it would pick up the item instead. And in general, it's just not that hard to have one more bind and one specific bind to pick up an item. I think avoiding that problem entirely is definitely worth it just for one extra bind. Alright, so now let's talk a little bit about the differences between controller and keyboard. So up to this point, all of the changes that we've discussed, you can change about controller and keyboard, it's just in the settings screen. But there are actually a lot of advantages that controller gets just by having a right stick. Alright, so I've got my keyboard and my controller here. First thing that I want to talk about is pivoting aerials in the opposite direction while maintaining momentum. Now that sounds like a lot, but it's really not that much. So with controller, by using the right stick, as you can see, my left stick here, this is my movement, my right stick, these are attacks. You can go fully to the left and then do a right stick input to the right, or, you know, vice versa, and you will maintain your full momentum. Now, on keyboard, what this looks like is this. If you try and do this on keyboard, you halt your momentum, and yeah, you just kind of stop. You can kind of do it, but it's very tight, and it's almost impossible to do reliably, especially compared to, you know, controller where all you have to do is just move the stick. And the other main thing I want to talk about is how dares work on keyboard. So when you dare on keyboard, the only way that you can input it is by pressing S, or like whatever your down button is, right? And that also is the button to fast fall. So a lot of the time when you input a dare, you're fast falling a bit because, you know, the input is extremely tight. As you can see, like, this is me doing the dare without a fast fall. I'm like barely pressing S at all for like only a few frames. And on controller, all you have to do is just, you know, flick the stick down. And this is a complete non-issue on controller. Alright, I swapped to Velma. Hopefully this will help illustrate it a bit better. So with Velma, you can stall in the air pretty well with her dare. But as you can see there, I'm just fast falling a lot of the time. You know, the timing is really tight, as we just talked about. No, this is something I've practiced, and I'm still fast falling a lot of the time. Whereas on controller, as you can see on controller, it's never a problem with fast falling. Now, the devs have said that they're going to address this issue, but I have a band-aid fix for you guys until they do. So what you can do is download a keyboard splitter to turn your keyboard into a virtual controller. And then you can bind buttons on here. As you can see, I have, for example, N bound as my down tilt button, like a right stick on my controller. And the game, once I hit start, let's turn on this keyboard display here. So I'm going to hit start here. And you can see we're all moving properly. And I have these binds Q, E, N, and U. And these are my right stick buttons on keyboard. This is how it's going to work in-game as well. So, just a quick explanation, I guess. So Q and E are my left and right inputs. I have them on Q and E, even though they're kind of out of the way. What was that Arya doing? I have Q, they're kind of out of the way, but the only reason why I see that you would use these binds is if you were doing the exact thing that I said you couldn't do on keyboard. And it's really easy to do this, because as you can see, I'm just holding A and E or Q and D, which is pretty intuitive. Because you, like, why would you press A and Q at the same time? You would just press A in your attack button, or D in your attack button, with D and E, you know? The other thing is I have N as dare. It's just under my attack button, as you can see. J is my attack button, and N is my dare, and then U is my up air. I found that this makes doing combos with dare significantly easier. Like this combo, for example. You can do side light, dare. I had such a hard time doing this combo before, and with these binds, it is so much easier. On Arya, this helps with her dare loops a lot. So, like, as you can see, you can just press the button and you're good. It helped me so much. I used to, like, when I did this combo before, I would always fast fall. Like, I would just do this and I would fall under, and it's so bad. But with the bind, it's way, way easier. And the other major benefit about this is using dares as edge guarding tools. So with current keyboard, it's like pretty much impossible to charge a move without fast falling and then decide to fast fall later. So like, this is me just fast falling. This is me doing no fast fall, or at least I'm trying to. But what was that? I like flew. Anyways, this is like how slow I am to fast fall. And then with the bind, you can just decide very quickly if you want to fast fall and just be more precise with it in general. Like, as you can see. Wait. Oh, nope. I want to fast fall. Wait. Full wait. You don't have to commit to anything with it. You're just always in control. Alright, I think that's going to be all for this video. I hope you guys learned something. If you're a keyboard player, I would definitely recommend installing a keyboard splitter until they do add those binds into the game. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace out.